My husband's family keeps referring to me as his best friend. What does this mean? My husband Robbie, 26M, and I, 26F, got married earlier this year. It was a beautiful day and I felt so much love and support from both sides of our family. 2 months after our wedding day, we celebrated my birthday at my in-laws' house. It was nothing major, just a dinner and a night together with me, my husband, his mom, 50SF, dad, 50SM, and sister, 22F. That is the first night I noticed them referring to me as Robbie's best friend. After my birthday dinner, we were all sitting together in the living room, just chatting and having some drinks. That's when my SIL got a phone call from a good friend of hers. When she answered the phone and her friend asked what she was doing, she replied that it was her brother's best friend's birthday. I had never heard anyone refer to me as Robbie's best friend. I am his wife, and before that we were engaged for over 2 years. Hearing my SIL refer to me like that confused me greatly. I always refer to her as my SIL, and I would expect her to do the same. Or maybe even as Robbie's wife, but certainly not best friend. After my SIL hung up her phone, I asked her why she referred to me the way she did. She did not seem at all abashed. She just said, "Well, you are best friends. And that's what mom and dad call you," referring to MIL and FIL. My SIL and I are by no means very close, but we are nice to each other and have never had any fights. We just don't hang out outside of family functions because our personalities are pretty different. She's never made it seem like she was annoyed or mad at me. I decided to let it go that night, even though it weirded me out. But then it all happened again a few days ago, which is why I'm writing this post. My MIL and I both work in the same industry doing similar jobs, but at different companies in the area. Sometimes our companies collaborate when we have clients who switch over. This week we had that happen, and I had to pay a visit to my MIL's office to help a client transition. My MIL was in the office, so I stopped by to say hello. While I was there, she introduced me to her colleague, and once again I was perplexed by how she did it. She said, "This is my son's best friend." As I was shaking hands with the colleague, I paused and awkwardly said, "I'm his wife." The colleague looked confused, but my MIL continued to smile and didn't address it. Once we were alone, I asked my MIL why she referred to me like that. Just like my SIL, she didn't seem to act like it was weird at all, and said the same thing, "Well, you are best friends." The only thing that I can think to explain this is that in my vows to Robbie I promised to continue being his best friend. Nobody acted like this was odd or special, and I feel like it's a pretty common thing to put in vows. So I'm not sure why Robbie's family seems to have clung to it, unless it has nothing to do with everything. I've spoken to Robbie about this too, and he is also perplexed by it. He asked his parents privately about it and they gave him the same answer they've been giving me. It all just feels like some sort of bullying behavior to me, but I've never felt a sense of this from them before. Are they calling me his best friend because they don't like the fact I'm his wife? Or is it some inside joke they've been in on without me? I'm not sure what to do or make of it, especially because the in-laws are acting like it's not an issue when I bring it up. Yes, I am Robbie's best friend, but I'm also his life partner and their DIL/SIL. I don't know what to do. Any input or advice would be welcome. TLDR, my in-laws keep referring to me as my husband's best friend, but I am his wife and their daughter-in-law. They don't seem to think it's weird at all. Comments. Purple_Bishop 2. How about just being straightforward? Yes, Robbie and I are best friends, but now that we are married I would prefer that you refer to me as his wife as I treasure our relationship, thank you. Hiker 2190. Came to say this exact same thing. And, after that is said, continue to correct them if they use the best friend moniker again. Maybe at the next family gathering, present a united front, both husband and wife ask parents and SIL to address the wife as Robbie's wife. Honestly, I think they are mocking the OP for the vows. That's the only explanation I can reasonably come up with. Valkyrie Sword. Definitely feels mocking or passive-aggressive. Clearly they didn't like something about the vows. Update 2 days later. Thanks to everyone who offered helpful advice, and to those who have been kind in sharing their own experiences. I'm sorry to hear that this is not exactly a unique experience. Unfortunately for my relationship with Robbie's family, shit has hit the fan. Yesterday afternoon, Robbie and I were invited over to his parents' house for dinner. I have a big project due this week at work, so I needed to stay home and wrap it up. I told Robbie to go catch up with his family while I order a pizza. Apparently, this is when Robbie decided he was going to set things straight and figure out why his mom and sister keep referring to me as his best friend. Please keep in mind that I'm telling this story based on the details that my husband has given me. Robbie had a normal dinner with his folks, but they were all drinking a bit more than usual. Robbie decided to bring over some scotch that one of his groomsmen gave him for a wedding gift, so him and his dad were especially loose. Robbie and his dad tend to have guy time together after dinners where they hang out in his dad's garage and talk about car stuff and projects at home/work. This is where Robbie confronted his dad about the whole situation. From what I can tell, it took some coaxing to get this information out of Phil, but eventually he admitted to Robbie that my MIL and SIL and him were all in on some sort of bet as to how long mine and Robbie's marriage was going to last. Phil bet that we would stay together, whereas MIL bet less than 1 year and SIL bet less than 6 months. Apparently there was a cash prize involved. I don't really want to know how much it was. Phil admitted that he believes the whole best friend moniker was a way to get under my skin and cause doubts about my relationship with Robbie and his family. They think that if they acted like it was a non-issue for long enough, that it would drive me crazy and start making me angry at Robbie for not intervening. Robbie then says he stormed into the house to confront his mom about this all. It ended in a screaming match between Robbie, MIL, and Phil. Robbie eventually stormed out and walked to a nearby gas station, and from there he called me for a ride since he couldn't drive. This morning, when I drove Robbie back to get his car, we had a horribly awkward confrontation with his parents. MIL is apparently pissed at Phil for betraying the secret, and they were fighting about it all night. Phil will be staying with us in our extra bedroom for a couple days, or until they can calm down and talk to each other again. Robbie is now set on going no contact with his mom and sister. He is angry with his father but is more willing to forgive him. Personally, I would prefer if we saw a family therapist before doing this, but we are still ironing out the details. Hopefully we can get through this with both marriages intact. Comments. My ace line. While the way they're treating you is abhorrent and not something I would do to a stranger or even someone I dislike, it's a whole nother level of messed up to try to sabotage their son/brother's marriage on purpose. What kind of monster actively tries to wreck their family member's life to win a bet? Gross. Not so religious, no. Wow. Listen. If your husband is set on going NC with his mom and sister, respect his decision. You seem like you're trying to play peacemaker, but they have horribly disrespected you and your marriage. What they did was all kinds of fucked up. Even Phil is an AH for his part in it, even if he was the only one on your side, sort of. Family therapy only works and helps if all parties involved are willing to try, but it frankly sounds like the women hate you, want you gone, and will never give you or your marriage a chance. Zombie Healthy 2616. OP, he is going no contact in part because of the bet, but also in part because I can guarantee this is not the first time his family has engaged in really crappy behavior toward him. He knows his family far better than you and knows whether no contact is warranted. I wish I had realized this when my husband was trying to distance us from his family and I kept inviting them around trying to play peacemaker. You need to let your husband take the lead and you need to support any decisions he makes here. Also, from here forward, you can have a lot of fun with this. When introducing his mom or sis to people, you refer to them as husband's birth mom and sister as his mom's daughter. Both are accurate, just like you are his best friend. I am not consoling my BF because I make more money. I make a good deal of money, which I know people will say I'm the asshole already, lol, but I live a very modest lifestyle. My monthly budget is $4K a month and most months I profit $30K. I'm self-employed, so sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Next month minor flex because I'm a non and it'll be around $80K pre-tax. Woohoo. I have a boyfriend and we've been dating for 5 months. He's a good guy, but more traditional than I've ever dated before. He works as an assist manager in a farming shop paying $15 an hour. We're both in our mid-30s and live in the ass end of nowhere. I only moved here to be close to my niece and nephew. No, he doesn't know what I make. We've only been dating a few months and I'm private about how much I'm squirreling away. I drive an older Kia, bought a standard 3-house house last year but have almost paid it off. The issue is he saw one of my invoices to a vendor pop up on my notifications. Bill was about $5K. He was shocked I was paying that much. I told him it was the cost of doing business and he was like, must be nice to drop twice what a normal person makes a month on business. I'm usually water off a duck's back when it comes to conflict, so I told him it would be nice if I didn't have to pay that bill at all. He dropped it, but I was getting a vibe from him the last few days. Seemed distant. I visited at his place and asked him what was wrong, and I guess seeing me pay someone $5,000 set him on a complete spiral. He's trying to figure out how he can be a man when I'm off paying other men more than he makes. I did not like the implications of that, like I'm a hooker or something, and asked him if he freaks out on farmers who drop thousands on equipment. He said it was different and asked how much I make. He hasn't asked before, which was a little on me because I always give the impression what I make isn't that impressive. I had a bad feeling, so I lied and told him $120K, which is officially my salary take. Hi IRS. If you know what S-Corps are, you have an idea what I mean. Anyway, he burst into tears. I think if I was nicer I should have consoled him or something. I know he's feeling like a loser, which he's not. He has a cool job IMO and he's super knowledgeable about farm stuff, which I find interesting. He's a pillar in the community because we're surrounded by ranches and he knows everyone, and again I find it really cool, but he was upset that I see more money on the regular than he sees in a year. I may had dropped the ball a bit here and told him he's going to have to find a way to be okay with not being the provider, and then just got out of his house. I just couldn't figure out a way to make him feel better without lying more or making myself small. I guess I could have told him that working in a farm store is super fucking manly or something, I dunno. It's easy to think of these things afterward. My guess is it's some early midlife crisis, but I resent that it's coming at my expense. That because I'm doing well, he feels bad. If I found out he secretly had a lot of family money, I'd be really happy and glad for him. But no, learning I could cover a $5,000 bill for my own business made him feel like less of a man to the point where he had to throw shade on me. That's a him problem. I'm still kinda pissed about that. I don't know. I'm also coming from a place of super privilege because it's been a few years since I've had to think about bills, and I don't care what people say, that changes you. Update. Long story short, my boyfriend of 5 months who doesn't make a lot, found out I make a hell of a lot. He makes around $30K a year and I'll be clearing $400K, though I was caught off guard when he saw a financial email and told him $120K. He freaked out and had a minor emotional meltdown because he realized he would never be the provider. I told him to get over it. Not a huge surprise to anyone, but we talked it out, and a big reason he reacted badly is because he's in a bad spot. We live really rural and $15 an hour in a farm store is basically the top pay without a major change of life on his part. Moving away, somehow changing jobs when there are no real jobs, winning the lottery. The stress got to him and he didn't react well. He apologized and our relationship limped along for a few more weeks, but he started making little digs at my career. Saying stuff like how he can't believe I make so much money for silly projects, that it's wild I make more money than a doctor when I'm not saving lives. Things like that. Typing them out, they sound like mild nitpicks. And I certainly have a love-hate relationship with my art when I'm in the weeds on it, but I didn't like the vibe that was coming from him. It felt resentful. Instead of being happy that he had a GF who was doing well, it felt like he saw it all as a failure on himself. Like, I kinda think my future is not great because AI is coming for my job, but if I somehow do even better, then how would I explain it to him? Without him freaking out? I broke it off and he didn't seem that upset, so I guess it was a good call. Though suspiciously one of the local churches has contacted me for money for their local charity. They seem to know that I'm a high earner even though I've kept it private. I even use a registered agent for my LLC, so I think he's been telling people tales. It's a small town, so that's fun. Anyway, thanks for all the advice on the last post. And for fuck's sake, I don't do of.